Hey guys, we are back. So yesterday we did a MIDI prep, and here's our MIDI prep. We eluted, or actually we resuspended in 500 microliters of EB, and now we're going to go into an isopropanol precipitation. And this is a method that allows us to precipitate our DNA, so it's going to like crystallize. We're going to ditch everything else, and then we're going to resuspend it in water. And this is a great method for purifying DNA, getting ultra pure, ultra concentrated DNA. It's kind of an old school technique that, you know, in this day and age of kits doesn't get used too often. So we're going to go through that real quick. So what you're going to want to do first is you're going to want to spin this down in a large centrifuge just to get all the water down, or all the liquid down to the bottom. I've already done that. And we're going to transfer this to a tube that we can actually work in. So I'm going to unscrew it, grab my P1000, it's set for 500, and there should be 500 microliters in here, but just to be sure I'll probably go in a couple times to try to get everything out. And I'm going to pull up my liquid. I don't know if you can see that, but the liquid is coming up. So there's our 500 microliters. Put it in there. And it looks like there's a couple more drops, so I'm just going to try to snag that stuff. Alright, so now all of our DNA is in this tube. For the isopropanol precipitation, we're going to start off by adding 1/10 volume of 3 molar sodium acetate, which is in this little tube. Just happen to have it. So 3 molar sodium acetate, pH 5.5 according to this little note. That's what you want to use. So 500 microliters is in there. I'm going to want to put 50 microliters, so I got my P200, and that's set to 50 microliters. Grab my tip, pull up 50 microliters. Oops. I'm checking my tip. I see there's a bubble in here, so I'm going to redo that. That's no good. That's why you always want to double check your tips before you go and inject your stuff. So I'm going to eject that, make sure it's completely empty again, and then go back in and slowly pull up that liquid. Check it up to that line. That's good. So 50 microliters of 3 molar sodium acetate goes in there. And then we're going to add 1 volume of 100% isopropanol. So 500 microliters on my P1000. I have my isopropanol on ice. You want to put 100% isopropanol on ice as well as 70% ethanol, because that's going to get used a little bit later in the technique. So whenever you do these things and you put stuff on ice, you always want to wipe it off a little bit with a paper towel, because it's very easy to contaminate your alcohol. And if a bunch of ice water and dirty water from our faucet gets inside of our alcohol, it's going to mess up all the reactions, because we're trying to get rid of a lot of the ions that might contaminate this. So we have a dry bottle, open it up, and whenever you're pipetting alcohol, you got to be careful, and whenever you're pipetting cold liquids, you got to be careful. The pipette does not behave as normal, so just be aware that it may behave funnily, and then just pipette slowly, keeping a close eye on it. There's my 500 microliters. Slowly eject it into my sample. Ditch the tube. Isopropanol gets capped, and it looks like, so I actually saw a drop fall right into the alcohol. That's no good. I'm going to find another thing of isopropanol, but when I was capping it, I saw a drop of water fall into the center, and then it made kind of a dissolve pattern. I don't really know how to describe it, but that's no good, because this DNA needs to be super pure for when we do our ligation. So now we have our DNA and our alcohol. I'm going to give it a quick buzz, mix it all up, and at this point, I don't know if you can see that, but we have a DNA pellet that's kind of precipitated it out. I don't know, can you see that in the camera? Is that at all apparent? Right, it's kind of floating on the top there. Here, I'll mix it up. Maybe.
That's nice, yeah.
And so we can probably get a little bit more on that by freezing it. So we're just going to toss it in the freezer for 10 minutes. And then we're going to pellet this. And then we're just going to wash it off with ethanol a few times, dry it out with isopropanol, resuspend it in water. So this is why it's called an isopropanol precipitation. We added in our sodium acetate, added in our isopropanol, shook it up, and then all of our DNA just precipitated right out. So that's the namesake. Let's just toss this in the freezer. So I'll just put it right, I don't know, someplace where I'll be able to find it easily. So I'm just going to put it right there, and we'll be back in 10 minutes.